Welcome to today's Autistic Moment, a podcast for autistic adults by an autistic adult. My name is Philip King Lowe. My pronouns are he, him. I am the owner, producer, and host, and I am an autistic adult. Thank you so very much for listening. Over the past few years, many autistic queer people have led initiatives to create safe autistic queer spaces by us and for us. Many of us have worked hard to make our spaces sensory accessible with room for our diverse communities. The current political and social climate has made it more challenging to maintain those safe spaces so that neurodivergent queer people can just be themselves. In a few moments, Hilary, Otey, and Coda Brucki from Queermunity will join us to talk about how they have made their establishment a safe, autistic queer space and what they do to maintain it that way. Come join us for maintaining safe, autistic queer spaces on today's Autistic Moment. This first segment of today's Autistic Moment is sponsored by the Autism Society of Minnesota, known as AWESOME throughout Minnesota's autism community. As Minnesota's first autism resource for more than 50 years, AWESOME serves the whole state, the whole spectrum, for the whole life. Visit AWESOME at ausm.org. In addition to the wonderful guests and conversations on today's Autistic Moment, you can find many more resources. Visit today'sautisticmoment.com to listen to over 120 episodes released since 2021. Check out the episode schedule 2026 to see upcoming shows, topics, guest information, and program descriptions for Season 6. On the website, you can learn more about today's Autistic Moment, read the guest bios pages, explore the Adult Autism Resources links page, visit the Autistic Community Bulletin Board, read the blog, find out about TAM Autistic Consulting Services, sign up for a subscription to get ad-free interviews, and support today's Autistic Moment with a donation. Every episode, including this one, has a transcript. The transcripts are sponsored by Minnesota Independence College and Community. You can read the transcripts right on the website or download printable versions to help you save ink. The transcripts have hyperlinks in them for names, organizations, and other resources named throughout the show that you can access to see if they are helpful to you. The transcripts use a dyslexia-friendly font that are available in English, Spanish, German, French, and Chinese Simplified. Want more interaction with today's Autistic Moment? Follow today's Autistic Moment on Facebook, including our community group page, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. Also follow us on the YouTube channel at Today's Autistic Moment to listen to new episodes of Today's Autistic Moment and watch Autistic Voices Roundtable discussions. Last weekend, on June 20th, Today's Autistic Moment produced a live broadcast from Queermunity during their Pride event, Quiet Riot. The recording of the broadcast is available on the YouTube channel at Today's Autistic Moment. This episode caveats from Quiet Riot, during which Hilary, Otey, and Brucki will join me after this first commercial break, when we will present Maintaining Safe Autistic Queer Spaces on Today's Autistic Moment. Today's Autistic Moment can be downloaded and heard on most podcast apps, including Apple, Google Play, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, iHeartRadio, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, TuneIn, Pandora, Amazon Music, Audible, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser. If you are looking for the transcripts, go to todaysautisticmoment.com, click on the episode you want to listen to, and follow the directions to find the transcripts. Thank you for listening to Today's Autistic Moment. Support for Today's Autistic Moment comes from Best Care Home Care Agency. Best Care offers PCA services, and your friend or family member could be your paid PCA. Best Care also offers homemaking, FMS services, and 2, 4, 5D services throughout the Metro and Greater Minnesota. Visit their website, bestcaremn.com, to learn more about their services.
MICC provides transformative education and training for autistic and neurodivergent adults to live independently, work purposefully, and thrive in community. With hands-on learning and caring guidance, MICC participants accomplish things they never imagined, from daily living tasks like taking public transportation or managing finances, to building and sustaining a career and lifelong friendships. Learn more about our inclusive community in Richfield, Minnesota at micc.org.
Hello, autism community. My name is Lisa Morgan. I'm an autistic adult too, and I know firsthand what it feels like to be unintentionally harmed by well-meaning professionals when reaching out for help. My passion is to help autistic people find and use their own unique strengths to help themselves. Are you rule-based, a literal thinker, have a focused interest? Let's figure out together how to use the strengths of autism to find solutions. I offer life coaching for autistic adults and individualized workshops for professionals. To find out more, go to autismcrisissupport.com.
Hilary, Otey, she, her, handles the day-to-day operations of Queermunity. Originally from Oklahoma, Hilary made her way to the Twin Cities via Boston in 2010. She's collected a lot of experience that supports her Queermunity work like a BA in Sociology and Gender Studies, and an MBA, background in program development, fundraising, and more. Please join me as I welcome Hilary Otey to today's Autistic Moment, as she will share how Queermunity got started and has become so successful. Hilary Otey, thank you so much for being with us on today's Autistic Moment. It is a pleasure to have you as a guest today, so welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, Queermunity. I was there in March, and when I got the tour from your support staff, and I saw everything that's there, I was amazed. I was blown away. I was like, somebody thought to do this, all this. And so I was just blown away. And so I had to get you and your staff on board for this show today. Please tell us about how you and your spouse made Queermunity, and tell us all the wonderful things about your establishment.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Philip. That's a big question, and I'll do my best. If I forget anything, please let me know. But, I first would like to say that Queermunity has been a labor of love of dozens and dozens and dozens of people, not just me and my wife. But the whole project started a few years ago when, quite a few years ago now, actually, after COVID, I and my wife started talking about and thinking about, how does a community heal from this type of social isolation and, challenges of being together and forming community and staying socially connected, especially when there are other challenges to doing those even before COVID and outside of COVID, And so it just kind of was more of like an intellectual exploration for me of like, what does that mean? What does that look like? And I started then doing some Googling, like, well, where are the physical spaces that people are going to come back to once it is safe or safer to connect in person? And just realizing that the Twin Cities was one of the only major metropolitan areas in the country that did not have an LGBTQ plus center. So there are about 300 LGBTQ plus centers across the United States, and Minnesota had none. And just for context, I grew up in Oklahoma, so I'm from Oklahoma. I moved when I was 18. I moved out of there when I was 18. But there are 2 LGBTQ centers in Oklahoma. And we had none here in Minnesota, despite having a really high queer and trans population.
Please talk about the neurodivergent side of this, because your community is so supportive of us.
Yeah. And I think, that's where we started exploring, why do we not have a place to gather, and what are the places that we can gather? And, that's where the conversations happened about what would an accessible place look like, right? And so for me, there's nothing wrong with the big pride celebration is great for a lot of people, or going out to bars is great for a lot of people, but it's not great for everyone. And it's not necessarily a setting or an environment that's conducive to building those connections or having a regulated nervous system for a lot of us. So that's where we started exploring, like, what would a space look like that was more accessible to more people. And the team that we had, the steering committee team, was a wonderful team and made up of people of all different kind of experiences, neurotypes, backgrounds, identities. It was a really great team that helped us think about things from a lot of different angles. And we did an accessibility audit with some disability justice advocates and leaders, and just really understanding what are all of the different considerations that we might not be thinking of. But then we also have our team, which is a very neurodiverse team. And so we got to also put our own, input into what we would like to see or what would work for us or our friends or our loved ones in terms of both the space and the programming. So when we were looking around for spaces, we needed to have space that had all gender neutral restrooms. That was important. We also needed to do a lot of work to the space to meet different needs. So we put in a whole new front door and door paddle so that the door was more accessible. The space has an elevator. And then for sound blocking and masking so that the sound doesn't become overwhelming or overstimulating, we put in acoustic panels in the ceiling. We have acoustic panels hung around the space inside. And then we installed a sound blocking speaker system, which for most people, they can't notice. I'm very sensitive to those like electronic sounds, and it doesn't bother me. It's more of like a white noise or a gray noise. It helps balance any echoing or any kind of talking in the background. So we kind of thought about what would make the space feel comfortable for the most people. And that's kind of the physical part of it. There's other things that we've done too, but then with the programming piece too, we thought about and partnered with a lot of groups who also think about what do folks want and need that's not being offered. So that's really what we're trying to focus on. And we're not trying to do the same thing as everyone else or compete with other awesome offerings and spaces in the community, but did notice and want to address some of those gaps that the other spaces and places and offerings don't really provide or don't look at. And those are, lower sensory and accessible events that are free or low cost, where folks can use their creativity, and that's really focused on, the strengths of everyone in our community and highlighting those strengths and those opportunities for self-expression and the ways that there are different and valid ways to connect and stay connected and participate. So we have a range of programming from monthly puzzling, for example, where we do community puzzles. And it's a great way to just, kind of be in community and be in space with others. And you don't necessarily have to talk. You can if you want. You can participate as little or as much as you want. But we have puzzling monthly. We have Friday Friend Labs, which is a great way to bring your own craft. And we also have at Friday Friend Lab, there's also a lot of skill sharing that happens. So somebody will be like, oh, that's a cool crochet technique. Can you show me? And so it's a great way to kind of connect with others. So all of the events that we have are on our website or on our app. So folks can look through and try to find what works for them and what would be a good fit for them. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention our big annual event that we have coming up called Quiet Riot, which is a sensory-friendly pride celebration. It's a quiet celebration of loud identities is what we call it. And it's a full day of workshops and events and activities, all with a sensory-friendly or low sensory kind of idea behind it. And all of the workshops and activities are provided by other folks in the community who are neurodiverse. So it's like you, and we have some people who run their own coaching businesses and people who run their own arts businesses, poets, artists, just a range of ADHD and autistic and AuDHD folks who want to just share what they have to offer with other folks in the community.
What I really loved when I was there is you've got these separate sections. You've got these lounge areas. You have another area where there's a couch where people can maybe study, or where there's bookshelves and a couch, and it's well carpeted, so the sound in there isn't, is also kind of protected. And then you have the game area. you have all of these different areas, and you have areas that can be used for a sensory safe space, for example. You have all of these different things in this one space. And I thought to myself when I saw it, I was like, this is incredible. Whatever you're here to do, you can probably find a space for yourself to do what you want to do in that space. And again, when I was eating in your cafe, I was like, the sound isn't reverberating in here. You can actually hear yourself talk to someone else. That was one of those things I really appreciated. And like I say, it was one of those things where I was just like, I just love this, because there's something in here for anybody who really wants to, quote, escape for a while, but still wants to have some kind of social connection. And it's just okay to be you, and have, if you need something, you can find it here, and that sort of thing. For the benefit of this particular show, where we're talking about maintaining safe autistic queer spaces, before Coda comes on, can you talk a little bit about what it's been like for you and the staff to maintain this as a safe space?
Yeah, we think about that in a lot of different ways. So there's the physical safety, and then the emotional and psychological safety, right? Different kind of ways of thinking about it. With the physical safety, that's obviously extremely important for us. We have luckily never had like a real safety issue in terms of like violence or, as a bad actor coming in. So we're very grateful for that. We do have safety issues with, how some folks who visit are using the space. We've had to make sure that the restrooms were being used by folks who are at Queermunity to participate in the programs. And I think that that's kind of a very common thing for a lot of businesses and organizations in the neighborhood, where folks are looking for public facilities. And so we had a couple, things that we've had to change in our operations to maintain safety, to make sure that there's not drug use in the bathrooms and things like that. And I think we've figured out how to make sure that we can strike that balance of physical safety. Yeah. We also, we're changed some of our operations during Metro Surge, where we had the door locked a lot more and used the doorbell to make sure that the space was safe. So sometimes if there are larger events or private events, or if we, have a lower staff number, we do keep the door locked and use the doorbell, just to make sure that, we are always keeping in that physical safety in mind. But in terms of psychological safety, I think that obviously that's a priority that we've all talked about. And I have to admit, I think it also comes kind of intuitively or naturally from just our team, because we have such diversity in our team in all different in gender identities and neurotypes and experiences and ethnic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds. And our team, my team members, my coworkers they're just so kind. And they're always thinking about how to serve community. How do we make people feel welcome? One of the things that we do is we make sure people are greeted when they come in, so that they know that they're welcome and that they're in the right place, that they're greeted by someone, either a staff member or a volunteer. We have about 50 regular volunteers who do a shift per month. We could not do Queermunity without our volunteers. We are so grateful for them. And most of those volunteers do work at the front desk to help provide that welcome and that sense of belonging when folks come in. So the majority of the people that are at the front desk are volunteers who are just there to try to make sure people feel welcome and safe. And I think, we want to make sure that all of our events are accessible. And when we have signups, we often ask what are people's accessibility needs and so, so forth. So I think that helps folks know that we want to make sure that we're meeting their needs if we're able to.
When you and I talked about a month ago, you mentioned some concerns because of funding to maintain your disability accessibility. Can you just talk briefly about that?
Sure, yeah. I think, our funding challenges impact disability accessibility as well as just general accessibility. As you know, if we are meeting the needs of folks who are disabled or their specific accommodation needs, then that actually benefits everyone. So, but our funding challenges have, persisted, and Metro Surge really was a big hit for us, as it was for a lot of small businesses and organizations with so many, mutual aid needs, and the focus on keeping their community members safe and fed and those basic necessities, as well as just rising costs and inflation. That combination has really impacted a lot of our business, a lot of our sales, all of our events. Well, all but one of our events in January and February were canceled. Our partners canceled their events because of, safety concerns, which is legitimate, but that trickled down.
Yeah.
We also had a contract with the city of Minneapolis, and that contract was canceled to reallocate some funding to pay for law enforcement for Metro Surge. So that has just impacted our staffing, the hours that we have for staff, and therefore the ability that we have to do the range of programming that we want to do.
Well, my reflection continues to be that Queermunity is doing a marvelous job at community building and helping people find friendships and opportunities to meet new people or bring the people you're comfortable with into a space that is very safe and very alive with lots of advocacy work in its own way. And when I saw that space and our communication since then, it's something that I felt we had to get behind because, you shared with me yourself that many people have been to Pride events or even the Pride Festival, and the loud music, the large crowd, the weather combined with all of the overwhelming interactions really do make a difference. And that Queermunity created this quiet riot to be an alternative to that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that if someone it just doesn't work to be at the Pride Festival, they can go to Quiet Riot at Queermunity and find a space that works for them. Yeah, exactly. That was my hope. And it is a little selfish because I wanted it for me. But also, I have experienced going to the big Pride Festival with one of my mentors who uses a wheelchair. And I was pushing her, and it's practically impossible, as you probably know, to get through those crowds. And we almost ended up in a ditch. And I was like, there has to be some other place that's age friendly. I also have a kiddo. All of my kids are neurodiverse, and one specifically has a lot of dysautonomia and just cannot manage regulate their temperature, their body temperature. So being outside in that heat it can actually be pretty dangerous. Yeah. And that's also my one queer kid, the one at least who's told me that they are. And I was like, well, where could we go that they could be included? And it's in the air conditioning and not too loud and safe. And so I know that it's not just me who needs and wants that kind of experience. Yeah. And so that's what we're hoping for, is a range of experiences and fun. It's different. It's not the same. No, not the same type of thing where you go and get a bunch of swag. And we'll have some performances, but they'll be a little bit quieter. And we'll have some dancing. We'll have line dancing, so no touching required if you don't want to. But we're having a teacher come and teach some dance moves. So everybody can feel included and also get out there and move your body if you want to. Hilary, I am so grateful that you've stopped by to spend some time with us today. And even though this particular show is coming up after this year's Quiet Riot, I would encourage everybody to look up Queermunity.com and find out about all of the wonderful things that are happening and for all the opportunities you can. And Coda is coming right up after this next commercial break to talk a little bit more about what Queermunity does and all the great things that happen here. Hilary, thank you so much for stopping by today. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me, Philip. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Following this next commercial break, Coda Brucki will join me to talk more about how Queermunity has been meeting the needs of the intersectional communities that walk through their doors.
Looking Forward Life Coaching is a Twin Cities-based nonprofit that provides mentorship and coaching for individuals, couples, and families, either face-to-face or virtually. Some areas that Looking Forward Life Coaching can provide services are organizational skills, time management, employment coaching, relationship coaching, and many more. Our coaches are trained in person-centered approaches, and we can provide person-centered plans with obtainable goals. We accept all waivers from the state of Minnesota, with the exception of elderly. We also have reduced rates and scholarships for private pay. If you would like more information or schedule a free meet and greet, visit our website at www.lookingforwardlc.org or call us at 612-504-7414. Looking Forward Life Coaching helps change stumbling blocks of life into stepping stones towards success.
The 4th of July is coming up in a few weeks. July 4th is not the best day for many neurodivergent people and those with PTSD because of the fireworks. The sound of fireworks can be a terrible trigger for the auditory sensory needs of many autistics. If you are affected by the sound of fireworks, wear your noise-canceling headphones to decrease the volume of the fireworks noise and/or find a safe space where you can fidget or do something to distract you. If you are a caregiver of an autistic person of any age who is affected by such sounds, please do not make them attend the fireworks, as the brightness of the lights and the loud noise from them can have serious repercussions. Let them wear their noise-canceling headphones without saying negative things to your autistic individual who react to those sounds. They are not pretending, nor do they need to be made to feel that they are doing anything wrong. Thank you for listening to today's Autistic Moment. Queermunity gets it. Queermunity is queer and AuDHD owned and operated. We built this space for all of us. A welcoming cafe, co-working, events designed with you in mind, because connection shouldn't come with barriers. Whether you're looking to socialize, work, eat, or just be, Queermunity is your space. Find us at 3036 Hennepin Avenue in Minneapolis or online at queermunitymn.com. Queermunity, come as you are. Today's Autistic Moment is a podcast that is hosted by an autistic adult where other autistic adults are guests. Autistic adults are the best experts about sharing our stories. Our stories come from lived experiences. When we share our stories as autistic adults on today's Autistic Moment, we discover community through validation with a neuro-affirming approach to thriving and not just surviving in our identity. Today's Autistic Moment needs your contributions to continue sharing the stories of the autistic adult intersectional communities. Support today's Autistic Moment in any of the following ways. Make a one-time donation through the coffee icon when you tap on Support Today's Autistic Moment on todaysautisticmoment.com. Subscribe monthly via Patreon. Purchase items at Today's Autistic Moments logo shop. Share today's Autistic Moment with your family, friends, co-workers, and others through social media and/or by telling others about us. If you own a business and/or work with an organization that supports autistic intersectional individuals by encouraging them to live with pride in who they are, advertising opportunities to support today's Autistic Moment are available. Please send an email to todaysautisticmoment@gmail.com for more information. Donations are not tax deductible, but help keep today's Autistic Moment as a safe space. Thank you for supporting today's Autistic Moment. Coda Brucki, they, is Queermunity's in-house graphic designer and event scheduler, bringing a sharp eye for details and a love of visual storytelling to everything he touches. Originally from Illinois, Coda studied interdisciplinary design in Iowa before moving to Minnesota in 2017. Outside of work, he's a proud cat dad to Pancake, who, he jokes, is more of a burnt pancake. Please join me as I welcome Coda Brucki to today's Autistic Moment to tell us how Queermunity has been meeting the needs of the many neurodivergent queer customers who visit the establishment. Coda Brucki, welcome to today's Autistic Moment. I am so glad that you've taken time to join us today. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Coda, we just heard from Hilary about how Queermunity was established and the services it offers in terms of queer AuDHD people. And so now I'd like you to talk about your involvement at Queermunity and what that means for you.
Yeah, so I started volunteering pretty soon after Queermunity had opened. It was about a month after. That quickly kind of turned into me working there. And for me personally, Queermunity honestly helped a lot with me coming to actually accept my ADHD side, because that was something that I had trouble with, like masking a lot, and especially in like a work environment. I had never been in a place that was really accepting of like my sensory needs and things like that. And so for me, being a Queermunity and having it being a safe space for autistic individuals and queer individuals, it's really kind of helped me learn about myself, and also, sorry, words.
Take your time.
It's kind of, thank you. It's helped me just like come to accept that side of me and see that it's something that can be easily accommodated. I always kind of was, like I said, I had a hard time in other workplaces feeling that was something that was accommodated, but between things of like making sure we always have like either low lighting or lights that can be like changed in color or dimmable, or like just low noises or having earplugs available, those are things that are really easy to implement and we have. And yeah, it's just been really great to like see it be so normalized. I guess that's the thing that Queermunity has really done, is it made me feel like being autistic is just normal, which it is. It is a normal thing, but when you're not used to that, it can seem very like an alien thing. Like that, like, hey, this can be something that is easily accountable. It's just part of life. Other people do experience it. So that's what I love about Queermunity, and is that it's a place for people to just go and just be themselves and become comfortable with just being open and being themselves.
And I do think that we need to acknowledge that even being in some queer spaces where our AuDHD identity is also welcomed can be a challenge. And what I love about Queermunity is it's found its way to allow both parts of our identity to exist and feel like we can be comfortable there. We can be ourselves. We can be engaged in things that are going on around us. What do you think?
I definitely agree with that. Like you said, there's not a lot of spaces that seem to have that overlap between being very openly and obviously, catered to queer identities, but also catered to autistic identities. There might be like smaller groups that kind of try to do it, but there's no specific space that holds that. And so we're very unique in that sense, but I do hope to see more spaces like this become a thing.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and one that's not heavily invested in the loud music and crowded spaces, although I'm sure you have some of that goes on there. But the point is that it's okay if something like that doesn't work for each individual person. You have spaces where someone can remove themselves from that if necessary. Or, what I really loved when I visited there is that you've got these little spaces. Like I saw a few lounge areas where they're removed from the main part of the cafe area, so that, if a group wants to go over there and study for a project, or if they just want to hang out there and read a book, or just talk about a book, or talk about a special interest, they can do that. I saw two spaces, and then you've got the gaming area and the working areas, the offices that are open, and the safe space room if one wants to use it. I mean, I'm awed at how much diversity that is just in the physical space, where people can go and be and do whatever they wish within reason, of course.
And that's the thing is, like you said, some events we try to keep like low sound, but there are some events that, the entire space is being used and like might be music. If someone ever comes up to the front desk is like, hey, I'm feeling, kind of overwhelmed right now. Is there a space that I can go that I need to calm down? We always make sure there's some place available. And we're like, it's a normal thing for us because we get on staff, pretty much everyone is some sort of neurodivergent. A lot of us are, autistic or AuDHD or have sensory issues. So like we completely understand if someone comes up and is like, hey, I'm feeling, sensory overload. I need a space right now. Right away, we're like, yep, we got you. We'll find you a space, either one of the rooms that aren't being used, or if everything's being used, we have a set space that's, that's what it's meant for. So we do try to keep things, like I said, in the space as diverse as possible to accommodate a lot of different needs, whether it's a disability or a sensory issue, anything like that. And we're always prepared to make further accommodations if it's needed.
Like I say, my visit there in late March, it was a Friday afternoon and it wasn't terribly crowded yet. but I just remember being in the space, and I was looking around there, and I thought, oh my, I just was like, I've not seen anything like this before, and I wish I had seen something like this before. But we have these people who have thought of just about everything they can, and so one of your volunteers gave us a tour, and what I saw was incredible. I just, it was so well suited for the queer neurodivergent communities. Today's Autistic Moment was present for Quiet Riot, and Hilary gave us a tour, so that sort of thing. And like I say, it just was like amazing that how much you all thought to put together. What is it like for you to be there, and tell us about the efforts that you make to maintain that a safe neurodivergent space?
Like I said, we're always willing to jump in with extra accommodations needed. We've made it so our goal is to hopefully make it so that it feels like a normal and safe thing to do, is to come up and ask for accommodations, whether it's earplugs or you're going to need a separate space or anything. I mean, we've had people who come up and they don't talk, and they'll just start writing just on Notepad, and it's not made to be anything, weird or extra, because we're just used to it. We're just like, yes, this is safe. You can do that. You come up and start writing to me on a notepad. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to start writing back to you.
Right.
Like, things like that our goal is to just make it so everyone feels that they can just truly be themselves in whatever way they are, and that's okay.
Are there challenges to maintaining it that way that you can talk about?
Yeah, so in the sense that we are, partially an event space, sometimes we'll have multiple different, smaller groups or events in the same space, so one might get a little bit louder, or have louder music playing, or might need lighting a certain way, versus another group might, not want that, or might have issues with that. So finding ways to basically accommodate everything. That's why we have the sound panels to kind of help, separate things a little bit more. That's why we have multiple different ways the lights can be put up and stuff like that. So it is challenging though sometimes to juggle things a little bit, especially if groups are very different needs. It could be a little bit of a juggling act with that. Yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is just accommodating multiple groups or needs at the same time. And then, of course, sometimes there can become conflicts with that, or misunderstandings. So just navigating that. But I think we've done a pretty good job with it.
Yeah. And what was it like to maintain that space during Operation Metro Surge?
It did, in the sense that everyone was definitely stressed and on high alert. Everyone's nervous systems were kind of on edge. So it was just trying to make it feel like a safe space when no one felt safe in general. Just being in the city, you felt on edge. It didn't feel safe. So trying to maintain someplace as a safe space when nothing feels safe, that was really difficult. But yeah, and so trying to make also people know that hey, you are welcome here. It's okay. We're going to do whatever we can to protect you should something happen, because we are a very diverse space. So
right.
People who could have very heavily been impacted by what was going on.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that they knew they were welcome there, and that we were going to do whatever we could to keep them safe. Yeah. So that was definitely a challenge, and just trying to make that known. That's hey, you're safe here, and we're going to do whatever we can to try and make this stay as safe as possible.
Yeah.
And stay as, grounding and comforting as possible in a time where everything feels chaotic.
Yeah. And did you find some really challenges, since the diverse population there, as far as culturally speaking and racially speaking. What kinds of challenges did you meet there?
I mean, there's been, fortunately, we have a couple people who speak Spanish that have helped out there. We also have ASL interpretation app that's like on standby, that's readily available. So we haven't actually, at least in my experience, I haven't seen too many complications actually when it comes to like language, becoming an issue. But that's just me personally. I don't know if I haven't heard of any of my coworkers really having that much of an issue either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen too much of that being complicated, but it is something that we're always kind of, try to be prepared for in terms of just, having resources where if you don't speak a language that someone on staff speaks, is there somebody else we know that could help? We make sure a lot of our information is available in Somali and Spanish as well. So, we try to make things as language accessible as possible.
Coming up after this final commercial break, Coda will talk about many of the events and resources available at Queermunity to give those in need some important items for their daily living. Today's Autistic Community Bulletin Board will follow. Are you looking for a space where you don't have to explain your autism to be seen, heard, or understood? We are the Autistic Peer Support Coaching Collective, the world's first autistic-led peer support coaching organization. In a world that pathologizes our differences, isolates us, and pushes toxic individualism, APSCC offers something radical: community, connection, and care. Our coaches are all autistic adults, trained professionals, supporting our fellow autistics with tools for advocacy, regulation, and everyday thriving. We know how hard it is right now. Stigma, burnout, misinformation, it's everywhere. But you don't have to face it alone. Peer support is not just helpful, it's necessary. Community is not a luxury, it's how we survive. Showing up in our full autistic selves with our stims, our sensitivities, and our joy is an act of resistance. In a world that tells us to hide or disappear, we choose to be visible together. You'll find one-on-one coaching, free support groups, educational workshops, and more, all rooted in the neurodiversity paradigm, built by autistics for autistics. Come be part of something real. Visit autisticcoaches.com. If you have just learned that you are autistic, you are probably getting information from many places. Some of the input is not affirming. You are hearing phrases like, "You are too high functioning to have autism." Quote, "No wonder you sit around and do nothing all day," end quote. You have people suggesting therapies and ways to be cured. What if you could talk with someone who is autistic and proud of who they are? Where can you talk with an autistic who will validate you and help you find neuro-affirming resources? I can talk with you to assist you with helpful advice. TAM Autistic Consulting Services are not therapy or legal advice. My consultation services offers you education supports with recommendations to people and resources to see if they will work for you. Go to todaysautisticmoment.com and read about TAM Autistic Consulting Services. If interested, please fill out the intake form and make an appointment so we can begin working together. Autistic adults aren't getting the support we need. It affects our health, our income, financial stability, and our ability to live independently. ITI Assistive Technologies is changing that. This autistic-led team has created Decide with tools built for neurodivergent minds. One lets users quickly pick from custom lists based on their energy level. The other guides them through big decisions using simple agree-disagree statements that match their values. Visit itiassist.com/decide for more information about downloading the app to get all features for just $5 a month. The 4th annual Summer of Self-Care series begins on July 12th with Dr. Megan Anna Neff on the episode Self-Care, Managing Your Nervous System. Managing our nervous system is a first priority for autistic individuals. Whether autistics experience pain, feel overtired, or experiencing sensory distress, our nervous system is triggering our body's response. Megan is an autistic therapist and author. Megan will help us better understand our nervous system with management suggestions. On July 26th, Carol Jean Whittington will be my guest for the episode Self-Care, Practicing the Pause. On August 9th, Dr. Jessica Hickstead will be my guest for Self-Care, Navigating Trust. Remember to visit the episode schedule 2026 page on todaysautisticmoment.com for more details. Thank you for listening to Today's Autistic Moment. I'm also interested to have you talk about the valuable resources you have there, like your community resource wall. You have referrals to Affirming Care. You have the healing-centered programs there. Your website is full of stuff about things like gender-affirming gear, basic needs supplies, health essentials, other supports. Please elaborate on that, because that is so very important right now for our communities.
Yeah. So for our community wall, it's pretty much anyone can come and post, their own events. It's a great place for people to come and see what else there is in the community, whether it's their own events, whether it's people just, I've seen everything from, people just, hey, I just want to hang out, to events, to things like people selling their services in terms of like photography or artwork, or sometimes it's just like getting to know people. So there's kind of everything on that board. So that's really great. A lot of people come in and they're like, hey, I'm new to the city and I don't know anything around here. And I'm like, hey, have you checked out this community board? It's got like, it's everyone who comes in here is probably part of the same community you're in. Either they're queer, neurodivergent, or both. And they post on this board, come find, other things to do. In terms of our resource wall behind that, like, it's got free like hygiene items. So if anyone's struggling, or just, they just need something, they're free to take it.
Yeah.
Ask questions or anything like that. We do have our gender affirming gear. So, we can't, if anyone's on like HRT we can't give the actual hormones, but we can help supply the like needles and like alcohol pads, stuff like that. So we can help with that. And then we have our trans resilience night. So pretty much anyone, gender non-conforming, trans, non-binary, anything in between, you can come and take just whatever you need. Again, we don't ask questions. It's meant for you to come take what you want to feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
Then we have a lot of things that kind of overlap with being, part of the LGBTQ plus community, plus also being neurodivergent. So we have, we've partnered a lot with like Brave Mental Health to host a lot of workshops. One of them was just like a body doubling thing. Another one was like specifically for like trans masc individuals. So that's something, we've had a lot of workshops like that. And then we also have Angata Healing, which is actually in Queermunity, and they're going to start doing community acupuncture on the first and third Wednesdays of each month. But they're really cool. So they do, obviously, acupuncture, but they are really knowledgeable in specifically how trans or gender non-conforming and neurotypical folks, how their bodies operate and how it might be different to like a neurotypical person, which I think is really cool. And then I definitely think something's needed. Because, gender non-conforming and neurodivergent people, we might hold stress differently in our bodies than someone who isn't. And
Right.
I feel like a lot of normal home practices don't necessarily account for that. And so, like, Nagata Healing is really cool, and that, like, they're really knowledgeable in those differences. And they're also very trauma-informed. So, yeah. So, we have a lot of really cool partners and things in our space.
Well, I happen to hold the belief that regardless of what one's gender is, that, or even sexual orientation is that neurodivergent people are by nature gender non-conforming because we really kind of bust apart all stereotypes when it comes to gender. I've interviewed a lot of straight autistic women who were once told that they're tomboys, and I've had, other straight autistic men who are, quite frankly, by the male stereotype, oversensitive, that sort of thing. So yeah. I really do think that they all overlap.
There's definitely an overlap, yeah.
Coda, thank you so much for joining me today on today's Autistic Moment. And I do want to encourage our local and other communities outside of Minnesota to check it out. And we would love to see things like this happen in other places. I continue to say about Queermunity what I say about things like men neurodivergent and such. These are people who are neurodivergent, who aren't waiting around for somebody to invent an idea. They've come together to make it themselves. And that's what's so powerful about this. This is a queer neurodivergent initiative that's been taken here. So we definitely want to encourage those as much as possible. Coda, thank you so much for being here today, and we certainly look forward to our continued collaboration.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sign up for a subscription to ad-free interviews on todaysautisticmoment.com. The subscription is only $12 a month or $144 for a whole year. Once you buy the subscription, you can click on any show where you see the logo for Today's Autistic Moment ad-free interviews to hear only the interview without interruptions, segmentation, and music. You can listen to all ad-free interviews going back to July 2025 and all upcoming shows. Today's Autistic Community Bulletin Board. All these events and many others, such as sensory-friendly concerts, art activities, and museum information links, are available on todaysautisticmoment.com/bulletin board. The Adult Coffee Club for Autistic Adults in Minnesota are held on the second Tuesday of every month, weather permitting, at Dogwood Coffee, located at 2700 University Avenue West, Suite 100 in St. Paul, Minnesota. The zip code for your GPS is 55114. The adult coffee clubs will begin at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on July 14th, August 11th, September 8th, October 13th, November 10th, December 8th. Understanding Autism virtual classes are offered by the Autism Society of Minnesota. The next classes will be July 13th, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., August 10th, 12 to 1 p.m., September 14th, 6 to 7 p.m., October 12th, 10 to 11 a.m., November 9th, 12 to 1 p.m., December 14th, 6 to 7 p.m. On July 9th, beginning at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., Jillian Nelson will present a workshop at the Autism Society of Minnesota entitled Maximizing Your Disability Services in Minnesota, Person-Centered Planning and Creative Solutions. Want to provide better support for autistic people and feel confident doing it? Awesom's Autism Direct Support Certification Program is a deep dive training series designed for direct care professionals, but open to anyone who truly wants to understand autism and put that understanding into action. This is not a one-size-fits-all training. You'll explore real-world challenges and gain tools that you can apply right away, grounded in evidence-based practices and a neurodiversity-affirming mindset. Register for upcoming sessions on July 17th, 24th, and 31st, 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. On August 6th, beginning at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., Jillian Nelson and Zephyr James will present a workshop at the Autism Society of Minnesota entitled Finding Yourself Beneath the Mask, Tools, Experiments, and Everyday Masking Strategies for Unmasking. Go to ausm.org to learn more about these and other social and recreational programs, educational events, counseling services, and support groups at the Autism Society of Minnesota. Neurodivergent is a social club rooted in a vision of bringing neurodivergent Minnesotans together to build meaningful connections. Its core principle is to foster an environment where all are treated with dignity and respect, regardless of ability or preferences. Go to their website, neurodivergent.org, for more information, become a member, volunteer, and attend their events. Today's Autistic Moment is here because of the generosity of supporters and sponsors. Go to todaysautisticmoment.com and select Support Today's Autistic Moment to donate. If you have questions about today's Autistic Moment, please send an email to todaysautisticmoment@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Today's Autistic Moment, a podcast for autistic adults by an autistic adult. May you have an autistically amazing day. All of the guests meet with me on Zoom to record the interviews. The interview transcripts are provided by Otter. The podcast is prepared and edited on WavePad Masters Edition by NCH Software. The podcast is published by Spotify for Podcasters. The music that you hear is licensed to Today's Autistic Moment by PremiumBeat.com.